Welcome into the Saints Insider Postgame Show for Thursday Night Football. Saints at Rams. Final score, Rams 30, Saints 22. I'm Zach Ewing with NOLA.com. Obviously not at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Doing things a little bit different for this holiday week. I come to you live from, of all places, Casper, Wyoming, where no one can find you and no one knows where you are, and maybe where the Saints want to go after a game like this. Everything else will be normal. We'll be joined by Luke Johnson, Matthew Parrish, Rod Walker. They are live at SoFi Stadium. They're going to call in as soon as they're done with the locker room. And in the meantime, we're going to dissect this. A couple of you have left comments already on our YouTube page. Continue to do that. Facebook page also can leave comments. We'll get to those. We'll show those on the screen. We just ask that you keep them clean, please. I understand you're frustrated. Comments that are not clean, that are personal attacks, that sort of thing, are going to get you blocked. So relax on those, please. We do understand you're frustrated. And with that said, let's move into this discussion of the game. The Rams win it 30-22. Quite frankly, was not that close. The Saints score 15 points in the final, about 6.5 minutes of the game to pull within one score, but never get the ball back again. The Rams able to run out the clock with a first down and then a penalty on Cam Jordan it allowed the Rams to run out the clock. The Saints were only going to get maybe 15 seconds anyway, and that's only if the Rams had missed the field goal. So yeah, a lot of frustration out there. Matthew says Derek Carr isn't it. MJ, terrible game. Neither the D or offense came to play. Terrible play calling, missed tackles. Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think we have a tendency to blame the head coach and the quarterback when things don't go right, and I think they both deserve their fair share of the blame tonight, Dennis Allen and Derek Carr. But honestly, this game, as so many football games are, was won and lost in the trenches. I thought the Saints' offensive line was okay at times, but there were crucial plays, particularly 3 failed fourth down plays in the first 3 quarters of this game, where Carr was sacked twice. He was under extreme pressure the third time and basically had to throw the game away. When the Rams knew the Saints were going to drop back and pass, the Saints pass protection, offensive line, also a couple of times Jamal Williams missed a blitzer when he was in pass protection. That was a huge failure. And then on the other side of the ball, defensive line, how many times was Matthew Stafford under pressure tonight? Very few. Matthew Stafford was able to do what he needed to do. When he did feel pressure, he did a good job extending the play and making plays down the field. And if it weren't for a couple of red zone stops, the Saints did stiffen up in the red zone quite nicely a couple times. The Rams easily could have gone over 40 points in this game. And Donnell, I think you're exactly right. Lines got whooped on both sides. That was the ball game. Yeah, Derek Carr threw a terrible interception. Can't happen. They missed some tackles. Shouldn't happen. Dennis Allen made some curious decisions. Can question those. But if you get whipped on the line like that, I just think you're in big time trouble. Charles says the team is the same team since the first game of last season. Team will go nowhere as long as the coaching staff stays. I get that. Look, Dennis Allen's never won more than 7 games in a season as an NFL coach. This is now his at least 5th partial season. And the Saints will have to win at least one of their last 2 in order to get to that point. And we'll talk about that. Kenrick says not all Carr's fault. No, it wasn't. He threw 3 touchdown passes for the second straight game. He did have the bad interception. He threw a pass slightly behind Chris Olave on a big third down. When the Saints had the ball at the end of the half with a chance to tie or take the lead. Taylor, at what point do media members really start looking at Mickey Loomis? Team is his grand design, says right people in the right building. Mickey Loomis has a lot of cachet in that building. That's what I'll say to that. It would take an act of God to move Mickey Loomis off of this position. But I don't disagree with the criticism there. And really, this is where I'm at. Dennis says, uninspired performance, poor play calling. Look, these things happen in the NFL. You have bad games where you can't catch a break. Things go wrong. You get beat. That's fine. It can't happen in the biggest game of the year. Biggest game of the year. These teams came in both 7-7. The winner is not only in control of their playoff destiny, but really could probably lose a game somewhere along the line and still make the playoffs. And that's what the position the Rams are in now. The loser, the Saints, not only do they have to win out, but now they need help to make the playoffs. And we'll talk about that. So I just don't, you can't have that performance in the biggest game of the year where it's 30-7 going into the fourth quarter. It just can't happen. And it did. And the Saints moved the ball pretty well at times, stopped on fourth down. I mean, you coulda, woulda, shoulda this. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. So we'll talk about it all on the Saints Insider Postgame Show. As I said, Luke Johnson, Matthew Paris, Rod Walker will be calling in live from LA when they get done with the locker room. Want to let you know in the meantime that this season's post-game coverage is brought to you by Tulane Doctors. When it comes to healthcare, choose a partner that sets the standard. Tulane Doctors are bringing the medicine of tomorrow to the Gulf South today. Find your physician at tulanedoctors.com. Take an act of Miss Gale. I said an act of God. I just don't think Miss Gale is going to do that. I think she's friends with Mickey Loomis. She's friends with Dennis Lauscha. The way the organization is set up, Gail Benson does not want to be part of the Saints' decision-making. She doesn't want to do that. So I just don't think that's right. I don't think that's going to make much of a difference. So anyway, look, as I was saying, it's a crucial game. Saints just quite simply did not show up. Can't happen. We're going to dissect it. We got to go through it. Saints had a comeback late, but it fizzled, and we will have plenty more to discuss. Appreciate anyone subscribing to the YouTube channel. Lots of you watching live right now can see the stats. Not all of you subscribe to the channel. A lot of you not. So hit that subscribe button, hit the like button for us. And again, leave your comments. We're going to get to comments and questions. Good point here by Matt. He says Lattimore and Marcus May were out against Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp actually did not have a great game. Had a couple of drops on the goal line. They missed him a couple times, but Puka Nacua and then Demarcus Robinson, the Rams' third wide receivers, just absolutely killed the Saints. So that didn't help, certainly. And the Saints have gotten away with it without Marcus Lattimore against teams like the Panthers and Giants. They certainly did not get away with it tonight. That defense did not look good for large stretches, and it just didn't happen. In fact, I have the stats right here, pulling them up. The Rams go for 458 yards. They go for 6.8 yards per play, 325 through the air, 133 on the ground. Not getting it done. Not getting it done. Marcus says Saints did show up. They were just outmatched. I don't disagree with that. Look, I mean, again, you can say this until you're blue in the face. The Saints did not quit. They came back. They made a 30-7 game at least somewhat interesting in the final minutes to where the Rams needed a first down to run out that clock. But unfortunately, just too little, too late, and in a lot of ways, a microcosm of the entire season. All right, we're going to take a quick break, our first break on the Saints Insider Postgame Show. A word to you here from Tulane Doctors, and we'll be right back with more Saints-Rams postgame coverage right after this.
We are Tulane Doctors. Physicians and scientists working side by side to advance academic medicine. We give our community access to the best possible medical remedies, developing state-of-the-art treatments to improve quality of life, address public health crises, and cure disease, all in passionate pursuit of our mission to provide inspired patient care for generations to come. Tulane Doctors. The future of medicine is here.
The Times-Picayune always gets it right. Jay's on top.
Not quite. It says here the Crusaders are the best.
I think you mean the Greenies, buddy.
These sports writers know what's up.
At least you're wearing the right colors, but we know why people read the paper. The one thing we can all agree on, we trust the Times-Picayune.
Subscribe today. Read it today. Trust it today. The Times-Picayune.
You're never gonna make the front page wearing that.
Welcome back to the Saints Insider Postgame Show, live on NOLA.com and the Saints on NOLA.com YouTube channel. I'm Zach Ewing, coming to you live from Wyoming, of all places, but we're after the Saints-Rams postgame show. and Luke Johnson, Rod Walker, Matthew Parrish will be joining us live from SoFi Stadium here in just a few minutes. In the meantime, we're talking about this one. We're venting together. MJ, I can't stand listening to DA's post-game presser. Same line of BS, no accountability. It's a tough spot. These post-game press conferences are tough because you don't want to sound like Chicken Little and the sky is falling and, oh man, we just got beaten. There's nothing we can do about it. I think people would like to see him say, we've got to be better. He has said that at times this year, but even that rings hollow after a while, right? Like, we've got to be better. Well, it's the 15th game of the season. It's too late to get better. It's actually not too late. It is not too late, believe it or not. The Saints do still have an outside chance at reaching the postseason. They will need to win their final 2 games. They're at Tampa Bay for their next game. That's on New Year's Eve, and they are home back in the Dome to face the Atlanta Falcons on January the 7th. They're going to need to win both of those games, and they will need the Bucs to lose a game besides the one to the Saints. They need the Bucs to lose to the Saints and now another game to win the NFC South. And so they play the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday, which sounds like a tough game. But Trevor Lawrence is in concussion protocol for the Jaguars. He did not practice yesterday. He did not practice today. We know we've seen Chris Olave and Derek Carr both come back from the concussion protocol in previous weeks. So it can happen, but I think more likely Trevor Lawrence is not going to play. And so the Saints are hoping for the Jacksonville Jaguars to beat the Bucs without Trevor Lawrence. And if that doesn't happen, then the Saints would need to beat the Bucs and be relying on the 2-12 Carolina Panthers to beat the Bucs in Charlotte in Week 18. So that's where they're at. After all of this, that's where they're at. Charles says Dennis Allen 22 and 46. Enough said. Yeah, I mean, I think there was some hope for Dennis Allen this year. This is his most talented team. Finally had a hand-picked quarterback. In some ways, you can excuse him for his record with the Raiders. That was, more than 10 years ago. It was really a bad roster. Yeah, do yourself a favor. Go on footballreference.com and take a look at the Raiders roster in 2012, 2013, and 2014, the 3 years Dennis Allen was there. Man, you want to talk about a bad roster. I'm not sure Vince Lombardi would win with those players. So you can kind of excuse him for that. You can kind of excuse him for last year. There were lots of injuries. You start Andy Dalton at quarterback. But, at some point, you're right, Charles. Your record is what your record is. Lewis says play calling did us in. I don't, play calling does you in when the lines don't hold up. Play calling looks a lot better when the offensive line gives Derek Carr time to throw. Play calling looked a lot better at the end of the first half when Carr throws that bomb for a touchdown to Rashid Shaheed to make it 10-7 because the line gave him time. The Rams secondary got crossed up. Carr makes a good throw. Shaheed catches it, touchdown. But you can't you just can't do that. So you can't do it consistently when the line's not giving you time. But I do want to zero in on that sequence at the end of the first half after Carr throws the touchdown pass to Shaheed. And I'll tell you why. Because the Saints actually got a stop after that. That touchdown pass came with about 3 minutes left in the first half. The Rams were getting the ball first in the second half. And I was watching the game here at my parents' house with my son. My son, I turned to him and said, the Saints have to get a stop here. If they can get the ball back and put together another drive before halftime, then you can kind of wash away the couple of fourth down failures, everything that went wrong in the first half. Saints are tied. If not, the Rams score here. They get the ball again in the second half, and this could turn into a blowout. So I said, this is a big drive. And the Saints defense got a stop, forced a punt, got the ball back, had 2 minutes, little less than 2 minutes to go, but had all 3 timeouts, plenty of time. First play of the drive, Derek Carr throws to Chris Olave, who was on fire in the first half, get to midfield. And it looks like they're rolling. They gained, I think, 5 more yards on the next play. It's 4th and 5. They're like 10 yards from field goal range, where at the worst, you think they have a long Blake Grupe try to tie the game before halftime. There's about a minute left. Saints called a couple of timeouts. And, you're thinking, okay, they get a first down here. And at worst, it's a Blake Grupe field goal try. Well, Derek Carr throws a pass slightly behind Olave on 3rd down. He had his hands on it. It would have been a tough catch. Throw was behind him. So Now it's fourth down. Derek Carr turns to the sideline. Please, let's go for it on fourth down. And DA lets him do it. And I don't disagree with that call. I don't disagree with that. I think at that time in the game, being aggressive is not a bad call. You know the Rams are getting it to start the second half. If you punt there, I don't know what message you're sending your team. Maybe you give up points before halftime and the Rams get it back. So they go for it. No problem with that. Okay, they go for it. But what happens is the offensive line doesn't protect. The Rams bring pressure. Carr has to throw the ball away. It's nowhere near. I think it was Rashid Shaheed he was going for on that play, but he had to throw it too quickly. Wasn't anywhere near him. No chance. Turn the ball over. Now all of a sudden you've given the Rams a minute, and they have a couple of timeouts, and they're on their own 45-yard line. And not only at that point, honestly, a field goal is pretty likely for the Rams. Their offense was moving it a couple first downs there in field goal range. And so you say, okay, well, that's not good. It's going to be 13-7 at halftime. And the Rams get the ball first coming out of halftime. But instead, the Saints defense just completely loses DeMarcus Robinson. Real good throw by Matt Stafford. Real good play, to be fair. But gets him in field goal range. And now all of a sudden the Rams are thinking touchdown. The Rams get a touchdown to DeMarcus Robinson back of the end zone with 21 seconds left in the half. And just like that, it goes from you have the ball with, at worst, you think, a field goal chance to tie this game at halftime. And instead, you're down 17-7 at halftime, and the Rams get the ball. Rams went down and kicked the field goal to start the third quarter. All of a sudden, it's 20-7. It just can't happen. Then Derek Carr threw the interception, which was by far his biggest blemish on the night. And just like that, Rams go down and score. It's 27-7, and the game is basically over. The other one Joseph brings up, he says, yeah, hindsight, yeah, it's easy to say you should have punted there. I still don't mind the call of going for it. You got to have better protection from the O-line, and then the defense just can't give up 7 in that situation. The other one was the onside kick with 4 minutes. Also didn't have a problem with that one. And the reason is because the Rams had been moving the ball all night long, first down after first down after first down. And the Saints, there was like 3 minutes and 53 seconds left, I think it was. And but the Saints had no timeouts. And so if you get a first down in 3 plays, that runs about 2 minutes off the clock. So if you do the math there, Rams get one, and that's exactly what happened. Rams got 1 first down. They're able to run it down to the 2-minute warning. They get another first down, or in this case, they got the penalty on Cam Jordan that allowed them to run a little extra time off the clock, and they're able to run out the clock. So that could have happened whether the Rams were at their own 20 or whether on the Saints 40. That doesn't matter. I don't mind the idea, especially if the Rams aren't expecting it. Try the onside kick, see if you can get it. Didn't work. I don't hate that. Why not kick? It's the same difference. Well, the difference is you might get the ball. I mean, if you kick an onside kick because you can steal the possession back. So that's why you try it. Now, in hindsight, it obviously didn't work, but it ended up making no difference whether they had kicked it or the onside kick is a failure. But if the onside kick is a success, now all of a sudden the Saints have a real chance in this thing. Still more than 3 minutes to go. And driving for what could be a tying touchdown and 2-point conversion. Ted says empty yards. It's funny you say that because we've actually got a little slide up about that. Derek Carr, for the second straight game, throws for 3 touchdown passes. Chris Olave had 123 yards. Saints offense had some nice numbers, 339 yards overall. But yeah, they feel pretty empty. You're right, Ted. They feel pretty darn empty. Fire Dennis Allen and garbage. We'll have to talk about that. I mean, obviously the Saints still have a chance at the playoffs, and they're not going to fire the head coach after making the playoffs. I honestly don't think they're going to fire him anyway. It's just not the Saints' way of doing things. They think of themselves as a very stable franchise, and may keep that. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one, and to that point, Matt brings it up. Do you want a playoff spot or do you just want a better draft pick? Eagles and Cowboys at home doesn't sound fun. Look, life's too short to root for losses, man. You got to hope they make it, and maybe you have one of those magical Superdome days where everything comes together and the crowd rattles Jalen Hurts or Dak Prescott, whoever it is, and he throws a couple of interceptions. You just never know. Life's too short to root for losing. I think if you're a fan, you just hope they make the playoffs and hope for the best. They might not make the playoffs. Jim Derry said this on his podcast a little earlier this week. This may be the last time the Saints make the playoffs for a long time. Yeah, you want them to make the playoffs. Sure. But to that point, again, Saints are no longer in control of their own destiny. They need to win their last 2 games, and they need the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to lose another game besides the head-to-head to the Saints, either on Sunday to the Jacksonville Jaguars or in the season finale to the Carolina Panthers. I'm not defending anyone, Brody. That's a comment that we're gonna have to take off anyway. Look, yeah, this is it's not good. It was their biggest game of the year, and they laid an egg. There's no defense for anybody. I'm just telling you what I think the Saints will or won't do. I don't think they're going to fire Dennis Allen, but I do think that could be coming in after another bad year or something, and then you are looking at a high draft pick. You are looking at maybe a reset. So I don't want to take the focus off of this season just yet, but that's where we're at. Saints Insider Postgame Show is brought to you by Tulane Doctors. Here's a short word from them, and we'll be back after this with Luke Johnson, Rod Walker, and Matthew Paris joining us live from SoFi Stadium.
We are Tulane Doctors. Physicians and scientists working side by side to advance academic medicine. We give our community access to the best possible medical remedies, developing state-of-the-art treatments to improve quality of life, address public health crises, and cure disease. All in passionate pursuit of our mission to provide inspired patient care for generations to come. Tulane Doctors. The future of medicine is here.
The Times-Picayune always gets it right. Jay's on top.
Not quite. It says here the Crusaders are the best.
I think you mean the Greenies, buddy.
These sports writers know what's up.
At least you're wearing the right colors, but we know why people read the paper. The one thing we can all agree on, we trust the Times-Picayune.
Subscribe today. Read it today. Trust it today. The Times-Picayune.
You're never gonna make the front page wearing that.
Welcome back to the Saints Insider Postgame Show. Zach Ewing here with you, waiting on some live call-ins from SoFi Stadium in California from Luke Johnson, Matthew Paris, and Rod Walker. I might also try to get Jeff Duncan to call in. Jeff's in New Orleans. I don't know what he's doing with his Thursday night. Maybe he can call in. We'll see if he can do it. Look, just to reset things, this was a huge game. New York Times has a playoff simulator that allows you to kind of say, okay, well, if this team wins this game, what are their playoff chances? If they lose this game, what are their playoff chances? This was a swing game of 50% for the Saints. They were about 75% to make the playoffs, like 73% to make the playoffs with a win tonight. They were like 23% with a loss. It was an even bigger game for the LA Rams, by the way. They were right around 70% with a win and like 10% with a loss, because the Rams, they have no chance at a division. So the wild card would have been their only chance. They would have been 7-8. Obviously, lose to the Saints in a tiebreaker if they lost this game. All those things. So that's it was as big of a regular season game for playoff chances as you're going to get. And the Saints just, I don't want to say they didn't show up, because they took the opening drive, took it down inside the 40-yard line, and stalled out. I thought it was a very strange decision. I mean, I was kind of defending Dennis Allen on the onside kick and going for it on fourth down at the end of the first half. How about the opening drive? Easy to forget this at this point. But the Saints have the ball in the plus 37. Now, it was like 4th and 13. Carr had just been sacked, so they weren't going to go for that. But don't you want to get some points? You have a nice drive to start the game. Like, this is not going to be a 13-10 game. So I don't know why you wouldn't have Blake Grupe try a field goal there. I know it's a long one. It's like 55 yards. But don't you want to get some points out of that? If you can get some points out of that drive, if Grupe puts you up 3-0, you just feel a lot better. You feel like you're in control of the game. Instead, they punt. And Lou Hedley did hit a good punt. It was one of the times that the Saints did execute. He pinned the Rams back at their own 5-yard line. And so maybe that works out. Like if the Saints defense gets a 3 and out, you can get the ball back at midfield maybe, and go down and score the first points of the game again. And so, I get it. You're trusting the defense, but the Rams go 95 yards in 14 plays. They took 8 minutes off the clock, and it was 7-0. And the first quarter was over in like 30 minutes of real time. I think it was like 28 minutes of real time. That first quarter is over. Saints are down 7-0. Barely touched the ball after that opening drive. So I question that one. And then on their second drive, the Saints get to the plus 39, and they decided to go for it at that point. It was, I think, fourth and 5 again, maybe fourth and 4. And again, I always think if you're inside the 40 and it's fourth and less than 5, you should go for it. I know Jim Derry disagrees with that. I've always thought that was the smart move, especially in a game like this where you figure there's going to be quite a few points scored. You got to go get points in those situations. So I don't have a problem with going for it on the fourth down. I just like Joseph. Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of the execution. He says he sees a bunch of bad play calls, misusing Taysom Hill. They did not use Taysom Hill a lot tonight. They didn't use him a lot on Sunday. I wonder if he's completely healthy. Even when he was in there, he hasn't looked all that effective. Explain to me why Allen agrees with Pete on the play calling. Dennis Allen's the head coach. He has the right to veto a play call. He's also a defensive coach. And I think a lot of times he wants to trust his assistant coaches and see what they come up with. And at times, the play calling tonight was just fine. Again, I hate to keep saying that, but at some point, if your offensive line is getting blasted on these key plays, there's just not a whole lot you can do. Just not a whole lot you can do. So the Saints fall behind 30-7, and it could have been worse than that. They stopped the Rams, forced some field goals on 3 different occasions. It could have been a lot worse than that. And the Rams missed a field goal too. But it was 30-7. They do get a touchdown on a Derek Carr touchdown pass to Jawan Johnson to make it 30-14 with, I think, 6:33 left in the game. They stopped the Rams and block a punt. JT Gray, we haven't talked about that yet. Big special teams play, blocks a punt. Didn't go in the book as a block punt because it still went forward, but the punt only goes 8 yards. So the Saints are set up at the Rams 35-yard line. And then 2 plays later, Derek Carr, a bomb to A.T. Perry, makes a great adjustment in the air. Great catch, touchdown. Whoa, wait a second here. Go for 2. Chris Olave, open in the end zone. Offensive line did give Carr time on that play. He finds Olave. It's 30-22. We might have something. But of course, at that point, you just need absolutely everything to go right for you in a situation like that. And eventually it just didn't. The Rams able to get a first down. Puka Nacua, by the way, who ran for the first down that allowed the Rams to run this clock out. That dude is a beast. 5th round draft pick. He catches everything, but not only that, he's super physical. There was a couple of times Saints tried to bring the guy down. In fact, one of them was on that 95-yard touchdown drive to open the game. There was a 3rd down where Puka Nacua catches the ball like a yard, maybe a yard and a half shy of the sticks. It would have been 4th down, and the Rams were still on their own half, so they'd probably punt. But Isaac Yiadom could not bring Puka Nacua down. Nacua just like shucked him off and runs for the first down. And they end up going down and scoring on 4th down on another touchdown pass to Puka Nacua. And then the play late in the game where Paulson Adebo, Nakua's in motion, he gets the end around, and Paulson Adebo's following him the whole way across the field and just runs right at him and goes for the big hit and a loss. And instead, Nacua just kind of like bounces back a yard and then it runs right by Adebo and gets the first down that puts the game away. So Adebo wraps up and makes that tackle. Who knows what happened? Saints it would have been 3rd down. I think the Rams would have had to run another play before the 2-minute warning. If the Saints can stop them, Rams have a choice at a very long field goal or punting the Saints deep and giving them one more chance. Carr's INT was actually a false start. I have to look at that. There were several times tonight where I thought on both sides where it looked like the tackles jumped and no false start was called. This is kind of a common thing around the NFL. Like they give them like just a half-second head start sometimes. I don't really understand that. A false start is a false start. And I thought Landon Young, I think it was on the right side, I think it was Landon Young jumped on that play, if I'm remembering correctly, Joseph, and Carr threw the interception. So, again, in hindsight, you'd like the refs to throw that flag and take away the pick, but it didn't work out that way. So, final stats in this one, Rams gained 458 yards of offense, just ugly, 6.8 per play. Rams, the Saints actually very healthy, 5.8 yards per play. They had 339 of their own yards. So was the offense good enough? I don't know. Had the turnover, missed some crucial fourth downs. I don't think they were good enough on every drive. Derek Carr threw for 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, threw 40 passes. He was 27 of 40. 40 passes, just generally not what you want from your quarterback in this game plan. Dennis Allen doesn't want his quarterback throwing the ball 40 times. And he was under pressure. He threw that pick under pressure. At first, I thought his arm got hit on that interception. On the replay, actually, I don't think it did. I think the pressure kind of affected the way he threw it, and then he got hit as he released it. But it still was not a good decision to throw the ball there. And the ball came out funny and ended up being easy interception for the Rams. And after that, they went down and scored. And it was right after the interception. They scored the touchdown that makes it 27-7 with 5:42 left in the third quarter. Saints get stopped on fourth down again, and that was pretty much the ball game. Just some more stats. Chris Olave, as I mentioned, 9 receptions for 123 yards. It's great to see him get back healthy after missing Sunday's game with the ankle injury. Saints clearly played that right, giving him Sunday off. He came back, looked very good tonight. Running game, haven't talked about this. The running game was just putrid. Alvin Kamara, 9 carries for 19 yards. Taysom Hill got 2 carries for 2 yards. Team finished with 16 carries for 35 yards with a long of 5. 16 rushes is not enough. But part of that is, when you're behind big in the second half, you're not going to run the ball very much. But you just got to run it better than that. I mean, 2.2 yards per carry along a 5, that is not going to win football games. Then, Derek Carr threw a terrible interception. Derek Carr is not going to win this game. You don't want to put him in a situation where he's got to win the game by himself, because that's what's going to happen. He's going to be under pressure. He's going to make a bad decision here or there, and that's what happened. Rashid Shaheed, 5 receptions, 70 yards, long touchdown in the first half. A.T. Perry had the long touchdown for 35 yards in the second half. Juwan Johnson, 4 catches, 48 yards and a touchdown, probably his best game of the season. Alvin Kamara, 5 catches, 16 yards, just really kind of a non-factor. Foster Moreau caught a pass for 13 yards and a first down. Keith Kirkwood, 1 catch, 9 yards. Jamal Williams, 1 catch, 5 yards. Just not good enough. Not good enough. And Joseph's right, running game starts at the O-line. Not good tonight. Take another break here on the Saints Insider Postgame Show, waiting on our guys from LA to call in. We'll be back right after this.
We are Tulane doctors. Physicians and scientists working side by side to advance academic medicine. We give our community access to the best possible medical remedies, developing state-of-the-art treatments to improve quality of life, address public health crises, and cure disease. All in passionate pursuit of our mission to provide inspired patient care for generations to come. Tulane Doctors. The future of medicine is here.
The Thomas Pigune always gets it right. Jay's on top.
Not quite. It says here the Crusaders are the best.
I think you mean the Greenies, buddy.
These sports writers know what's up.
At least you're wearing the right colors, but we know why people read the paper. The one thing we can all agree on, we trust the Times-Picayune.
Subscribe today. Read it today. Trust it today. The Times-Picayune.
You're never gonna make the front page wearing that.
Welcome back to the Saints Insider Postgame Show. Coming to you live, Zach Ewing, waiting live call-ins from Luke Johnson, Matthew Paris, Rod Walker from LA, where the Los Angeles Rams have defeated the New Orleans Saints 30-22 tonight. Rams improved to 8-7. Saints fall to 7-8. Luke Johnson is on his way. Just got a text from him, so he'll be here calling in from LA here in just a minute or two. Keep your comments coming. Hit the like button for us. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We talk Saints all year long. We'll be back. Going to take the holidays off, but we will be back Wednesday after Christmas to talk more about this one. We'll know by then if the Bucs have defeated the Jaguars and what the Saints situation is. If the Bucs lose to the Jaguars, Falcons play the Indianapolis Colts, we could have another three-way tie in the NFC South going into the final 2 weeks at 7-8. Kind of feels like it should be that way, honestly. Kind of feels like it should be. Interesting comment from El Rey. Team is soft in the lines, tackling bad discipline. But they still didn't open their iPads and study. That was Jeff Duncan's comment he heard earlier this season, that half the team had not opened their Microsoft tablets 1 week and looked at the play calls. Bubba said, expected a loss, hoped for a miracle win, not going to lose any sleep over it. I don't know if it was a miracle win. I picked them. I kind of picked them because no one else was, and I thought, let's just go ahead and be different. I don't know if I actually believe the Saints were going to win. But I did expect it to be a shootout. In a lot of ways it was. You just can't fall behind like that. 30-7. Defense just did not come up with enough stops. Didn't get the job done. Luke Johnson is here. We're going to, let's see. Let's get this off of here so we can see Luke. All right, there he is. Luke, live from SoFi Stadium. How was the Saints locker room tonight?
Well, actually, my colleague Matthew Paris was in the locker room while I was handling the podium duties because apparently SoFi decided it was a great idea to put about a quarter mile in between the locker room and the postgame interview room. So I was just in there for Derek Carr and Dennis Allen, but I would say disappointment is the word that sums up their sentiments from this thing. Look, the stakes were really high tonight, and the Saints just came out and got whooped from the word go. They had opportunities to kind of keep pace with the Rams, but they couldn't make the kind of the crucial play in the clutch moments. 2 for 8 2 for the first 8 on third down, 0 for 3 on fourth down, and in that span of time, the Rams built up a 30-7 lead. Made their little surge at the end of the game irrelevant. Again, this is kind of the story that we've been saying a lot with the Saints team this year.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of their issues popped up in this one. Tackling, O-line play, maybe some decision-making by Derek Carr. I mean, just things that you just can't have happen at the same time in the biggest game of the year.
Yeah, they couldn't run the ball today. Their pass rush was mostly non-existent. I think when you're giving Matthew Stafford all day with this group of receivers, it's going to turn out like it did today. But today was the first time in more than 3 years they've given up a 300-yard passer. It wasn't good, and like you were saying, this is just the stuff that's popped up over and over and over again with this team this year. A lot of the same issues cropping up week after week, which is the most frustrating part about all of this. How many times have we seen them get down by 3 touchdowns and score a couple late and say, we love the fight at the end. Guys are giving up. It's like, but why are they always in that situation? They need to have the fight from the opening kick for you to really feel confident about where this team is.
Yeah, that rings a little hollow in week 16, I think, after you lose a crucial game. You mentioned Matt Stafford went over 300 yards. I know when your team loses a game, fans don't want to hear it, but I think Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua deserve a lot of credit tonight. They played really well.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, this is my first time getting to see Puka Nacua in person. I've seen all the highlights and the numbers, but that guy is good, and he's strong, he's aggressive, and he's a playmaker. He had 180 yards from scrimmage today. Saints could do absolutely nothing against him. He killed them worse than anybody else has this year. And Stafford was just balling. Some of those throws today were unreal. That touchdown to Demarcus Robinson at the end of the first half, when he threaded that thing into just such a small window. But the Saints, I feel like, knew it was going to be this kind of game. I called it to be a 30-28 game in our prediction, because I just felt like this Rams offense has been playing so well. This is, I think it might be their fourth straight game scoring 30 or more, maybe fifth straight game scoring 30 or more. And the Saints knew it. That's why they went for fourth down 3 times in this game. They were aggressive, but it just, they were not able to keep pace with a really good offense that was playing at a high level.
Yeah, to that point, I was talking about this a little while ago, but I found Dennis Allen going for it on fourth down inside the Rams 40. I think you understand the thinking there. Like, they've got to. But the first chance they had from inside the Rams 40. Now, granted, it was 4th and 13 after a sack. They weren't going to go for it, but they pass up a field goal on that opening drive. Maybe some points there set the tone. I don't know. It's hindsight. Did DA say anything about that?
No, nothing about the field goal. Passing up on that. I don't think Groupie is 100% on in terms of like stretching out to his like max range. We saw quite a few times tonight. And this has been kind of a theme the last couple of weeks, where he's not even consistently getting the ball into the end zone on kickoffs. So I think we didn't ask him about that, because ultimately it didn't really factor into the outcome of the game. And the Rams followed up with a 95-yard touchdown drive. But I think there's probably something to that. I think he had that groin injury a couple weeks back. He hasn't been on the injury report, but I imagine 55 might have been really pushing his max range.
Yeah, sure. Makes sense. As far as everything else, I mean, obviously now the Saints know they no longer control their own destiny. You've been keeping track of all the playoff scenarios. Lots of Jacksonville Jaguar fans, I guess, in New Orleans this weekend.
Yeah. You don't want to pin your hopes on the Carolina Panthers in Week 18. Then again, I think judging by the reaction of some people commenting on what we're writing, I don't know if people want to see an 18th Saints game right now. I don't know if they want to put themselves through that again. I'm sure there's a lot of Saints fans out there that want to win the division and make a postseason run, but like they need a lot of help. At Jacksonville, we still don't know whether they're going to have their starting quarterback against the Bucs. If Tampa wins that game, Saints are in pretty dire straits.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers would win this division? But here
not
we
me.
are. Looking at that.
Definitely not me. I was telling somebody even like 4 weeks ago that I thought they were pretty clearly the third best team in the division. I was wrong. They're all bad.
It's not pretty. Now we still have a chance for a 3-way tie at 7-8 going into Week 17, which would be fun. Falcons win and Bucs lose on Sunday, so that's possible. A couple positive things, Luke. Chris Olave came back from injury and looked phenomenal. I mean, they targeted him left and right and really ran a lot of the offense through him. Yeah,
I was really impressed. And Dennis after the game said he wasn't 100%. So he had a great game, and the guy is now the third player in Saints history to top 1,000 yards in his first 2 professional seasons, and the other 2 guys are pretty good players, and Michael Thomas and Marcus Colston. So really impressive performance by him tonight, and the one play he probably wants back is that third down option route that he dropped, and after the game, Derek Carr said he had some issue with his shoe that it kind of played a part in that play. He said his shoe. Derek's words were that his shoe exploded, so I'm going to have to go back and take a look at that and see what happened.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing that on television either, but I guess we'll have to go and see.
I didn't see it live from 10,000 feet away in SoFi.
But this is kind of what we're talking about, where that's a bad break. If it was a shoe malfunction, it's a bad break. That's unlucky. But the Saints, it's been a story all year. Yeah, I mean, like you. If you leave it down to a chance like that, then you're just not good enough.
Right, and this is kind of the word we keep kind of coming back to with the Saints team is that they're playing on these really thin margins, and one or two plays in a game could be a huge swing. And we saw it. I mean, the very next play they went for it on fourth down. The pass was nowhere close. The Saints at that point had a chance to go take the lead, make sure Los Angeles didn't have another opportunity to score. And instead, they give the ball back to the Rams near midfield. The Rams score a touchdown, and you go from potentially taking the lead to down 10 points, and then the Rams get the ball to start the second half. They score again, and now you're down 13 points, and the game kind of snowballed on them from there. Huge points of the game, huge pivot points. But like that's where they are right now, where if they don't make those one or two big plays, you see the game kind of get out of hand.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about earlier in the show about that minute and 15-second stretch at the end of the half that really changed the tenor of the game, because the Saints, you felt like for a minute there, at worst, they were going to go into the locker room at 10-10 and would have felt like they probably got away with a bad half. And instead it's 17-7. I couldn't find one thing about that other than just kind of lack of execution. Carr got pressured on fourth down, had to throw the ball away. Defense didn't cover Demarcus Robinson. They let Matthew Stafford escape the pocket. It just it was sort of a failure across the board of execution.
Yeah, and I think that falls on the coaches too. I like to have your guys kind of consistently making these errors in the 15th game of the season. It's stuff that we've been talking about since week one. That's got to fall on them. They got to do a better job of getting these guys ready to play. And obviously they're very quickly running out of time here. So I don't know if they're going to, they might not have enough time to get this stuff fixed up.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we'll bring in Rod Walker, who's also live from the SoFi press box. Rod, your thoughts on the game as I don't want to repeat what we've been saying here too much, but just obviously a failure in the biggest game of the season in every way possible.
Yeah, this is a game the Saints there was a lot on the line for them. They had a chance to kind of prove themselves, and I guess they did prove themselves. They proved who they really are. They're just not very good, and that's kind of the theme of my column is how they look good against bad teams and they look bad against good teams, and that's just who this team is. And they were definitely outclassed tonight. The Rams are a better team. They played 10 times. The Rams probably win 9 of those games. I mean, I just think that's how much better they are. And the Rams are really good. I mean, I think this is a team, I told Luke this in the press box. I think this is a Rams team that if they're a 7 seed, I would not want to play them in the playoffs.
No.
They have a lot of weapons on offense, and the Saints defense, which we've kind of raved about all season, especially at secondary, they didn't really have any answers for them.
No, I mean, I think this – is it fair to say this is the first time they really truly missed Marshawn Lattimore since he went on IR? They could have used another guy out there like that.
Yeah, they could have used him. I don't know if they win the game with him, but he definitely would have helped.
Yeah.
It's something Dennis Allen said after the game. I mean, he benched Alontae Taylor in this game. At the end of the game, the last couple of possessions, it was Ugo Amadi out there playing in the slot. So they didn't get their contributions out of their best players either. They went after Ike Yadam a lot, which is understandable. Ike's been playing great ball for the Saints, but he's clearly the guy to go after in the secondary. But yeah, they went after Taylor too, and he's a young player who's kind of getting fooled by some of this, some of the pre-snap motions and eye candy that the Rams throw at you, when one of your best players is not playing up to his level, that's a bad sign.
Especially against a team like this. I mean, we talked on the podcast all week about the weapons they had, and all those guys really played it was as good as advertised for sure.
Rams only threw to 4 receivers tonight, or three receivers and the tight end Tyler Higbee, who caught 3 passes for 30 yards. So you had between Puka Nacua, Demarcus Robinson, Cooper Kupp, you had 21 catches for 298 yards. So I mean, they just were feasting on the same guys. But no, that's interesting about Alontae Taylor. Do we have any sense at all with the long break? I mean, is there any hope Marshawn Lattimore does come back for the Tampa Bay game?
I'd be surprised. I think that's he might not make it back for the Atlanta game.
Wow.
I don't feel very optimistic about that one.
I agree with Luke on that. We haven't seen any signs or indications that he's even close to coming back. So I'd be shocked if he comes back before the end of the regular season.
Rod, want to get your take on what Luke and I discussed is really the turning point of this game, where the Saints have a first down, like basically midfield, down 10-7, minute and a half to go first half. They end up turning the ball over on downs, and by the end of the half, you're down 17-7 instead of going in to tie or even take the lead. In a half where you were outplayed, they would have gotten away with it if they just executed in that one moment and couldn't do it.
Yeah, Dennis Allen, I'm sure Luke already mentioned this, but he said that they felt like, and I heard a couple of players say it too. I mean, I think this was a message all week that they were going to come in this game and they were going to be aggressive because they just felt like they were going to need to score some points against the Rams. But I just don't think this team's built like that. I think this team, if you go down 10-7, when you shouldn't be, you should have been down probably 21-7 at that point because the Rams are kind of having their way with them. But yeah, you go in and have 10-7, you probably have a shot at, getting some momentum back. But I don't know. The Rams came, right out and drove down the field, and I think they kicked the field goal on the opening of the second half. I can't remember, but yes, I don't know if they would ever slow them down. But a team like this, and I don't know if Dennis Allen was confident that they could stop the Rams. Even if they had punted, I just don't think they had a lot of confidence in the defense. It didn't seem like, because they were going to be really aggressive in this game.
And I kind of feel like big picture, you start to look at this. And if you're not confident in your defense, what are you confident in this team?
Right, that was supposed to be this team's bread and butter, right? But even on the first drive, I remember I turned to Luke and I thought they should have kicked the field goal. I think it would have been a 55-yarder maybe. I can't remember the distance, but I may would have taken my chance on that one, and they didn't, and they ended up turning the ball over on downs on that one. So they wanted to be aggressive, and it just kind of backfired on them, I would say.
You want to be aggressive, and then you end up punting from the Rams 37 on the first drive of the game, which, as Luke mentioned, Blake Grupe dealing with a groin injury. Maybe there's some factor there that you didn't want to give him a 55-yard try. But still, I'm going to end here, guys, because we've gone on long enough. We'll wrap things up on the Saints Insider Postgame Show. But does this feel like the end for this team? Mathematically, we know there's still a chance, and they have a big game potentially coming up in 10 days. But this almost feels like the end in some ways.
I don't know. Every time I try to write them off, and they're playing in the worst division of football. Tampa could lose on Sunday, and the Saints could be right back in the driver's seat next week. It's just it is a terrible division full of terrible teams, and somebody's got to win it. So I'm not going to write them off until they're actually out of it.
Yeah, same for me, man. I just think that Jacksonville-Tampa game Sunday could swing things. They could be right back tied atop the division at 7-8 if the Jags beat the Bucs on Sunday. So yeah, I'm not writing them off, and I don't think this team. They were down big. They did show some fight, so I don't think they quit quite yet. Even in the locker room after game, I didn't feel like, I don't think they had just given up on the season. It wasn't. I didn't think the guys were that down in there. So we'll see.
We shall see. We'll see if the Bucs can beat the Jaguars on Sunday and really put the Saints up with their backs against the wall, or if we'll be tied. We'll have a tie for the NFC South lead again. Anyway, we'll be back with you on Wednesday for the Saints Insider Podcast. Hope everyone out there has a happy holiday season, a Merry Christmas, and we'll be back with regular podcasts Wednesday and Friday of next week. This has been the Saints Insider Postgame Show, brought to you by Tulane Doctors. Luke Johnson and Rod Walker are live from L.A. I am in Wyoming, out in the hinterlands, where the Saints season may be headed as well. So until next time, we'll see you all Wednesday. Thanks for watching the Saints Insider Postgame Show.